Today let's talk about editing workflow. So obviously the first thing I'm going to do is open my file, and I'm just double clicking on that. It opens in Camera Raw, and I can see already that I've got a few issues with the exposure. So the very first thing I'm going to do is just make the universal adjustments that I would make in Camera Raw. I always enable profile corrections and chromatic aberration. I just do it for every image. And I'm going to change that to camera standard to get a better resolution on the image. Because this is a pet, I'm going to push up clarity and texture. I wouldn't do this on a person. Right, now I'm going to zoom in a little, and I'll bring up the shadow clipping and highlight clipping, and I do have some highlight clipping. So I'm going to pull the highlights all the way down, because you get, on pets, you get a nicer look. And then I'm watching the histogram up in the top corner here. I'm going to pull the whites up until I start seeing them blow out. So they started to go around about there, so we'll keep around about there. I'm also going to pull the shadows up, just because this is a dog. Again, I wouldn't necessarily do this on a person. And then I'm pulling the blacks up. Let's see how far that has to go. That's quite a long way up, but that's a bit too far for me. So I am going to accept the, it's all about finding balance. I'm going to accept them around about there. That's looking pretty good. I suspect we've got a little, oh, actually we're good on this part of the image. Ooh, I've still got some highlight clipping. I did not mean to zoom in that far. But my highlights are all the way down, so I'll have to pull my whites down. Do they ever go away? Yes, they do. Around about there. So I think this image is actually a tiny bit overexposed, but let's pretend it's not. That's looking a little dark. I'm going to pull my exposure down a little bit. It's all right, now I can pull my whites up. That's too far. Pull my blacks up. I'm just looking to see where, yeah, that disappears. That's good enough for me. All right, now I'm going to open this. I don't do anything else in RAW. I'll do the rest in Photoshop. So the first thing I'm going to do is crop this, and I want an 8x10. Just so I don't have to worry about parts of the image I'm not actually going to show. And I have golden spiral on there. I'm going to change that to rule of thirds, because I want his eye roughly on the third there. And we've got a nice head tilt, so that's good enough for me. Next thing I do is zoom in and check for any corrections that need to be made, and we've got a little hair out of place just there. So I'll grab the spot healing tool and just take my brush small enough to deal with that. Not going to worry too much about the others. And I'm only doing this level of detail if my client's going to be printing very large. Spot on the eye there, I'm just going to take out. I do not correct the highlights on dog's eyes. They are where they are. And I'm okay with that. Right. The only other thing I've got to do on this, and I'll do this on a new layer, is take this leash out. He wasn't sitting very still, so we had to add a little bit of extra. Oh, I need some more layers on there. And this is where it gets interesting. All right, that's pretty good, actually. I have a tiny green bit there. I'm not going to edit it again. What I'm going to do is sample that colour. And where's my brush? I've got the wrong brush selected because I was doing something else before this. Okay, I'm just going to paint that out. So I'm going to change this layer to colour and just colour that in so you don't see it. And I pressed the wrong button. If I was going to sharpen, I've got one more touch up to do. Go back to my touch up layer. I'm going to just take those out right there. That's it. That's all I'm going to do to this image. If I were going to sharpen, this is where I would do it. So, Control, Alt, Shift and E, Option, Alt, Shift and E, I think on a Mac. Filter, Other, High Pass, and I'm going to pull this down until I'm only seeing the bits I want to sharpen. It's going to be pretty low. There we go. And image adjustments. I'll turn that layer to black and white and set it to linear light, and that will sharpen my image for me. So let me just zoom in and show you. That's over sharp, but if I needed to sharpen it, that's how I would do it. I can always bring the opacity way down there. It's just a little hint there, that's good enough. So I am done with that image. So essentially my workflow is universal edit. So the exposure, highlights and shadows, and anything that needs to be done to the whole image, I will then bring it into Photoshop and crop, make any corrections to the image that I need to, and then sharpen. And that essentially is my workflow, whether I'm doing pets, people, or products. So I hope that helps.